Come with us if you want to relive one of the greatest sci-fi action movies of all time. That's right. Today, we're diving into James Cameron's Terminator, the one from 1984, the first, the original, where the future is dark, the leather jackets are cool, and we absolutely will not stop until we rate this classic on the Brominator. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Real Bromance Podcast. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Real Bromance Podcast. I am Matt, and with me, as always, is
Andy. That's me.
And welcome back, guys. Today we're covering, I think Andy should take this one, because to be honest with you guys, this is a real bromance first in our short history. I know this movie, I've seen this movie, but Andy knows more about this movie than I do.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, it's great.
What movie is this? Of course, this is Terminator, 1984, James Cameron's flick. You know, the guy who made up that story with that boat going down. Before he did that, he did Terminator 1 and 2. And this is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. Like most other movies we've seen on the show where Matt has seen this countless times. I've seen the movie. This is my version where I've seen this countless times. Since I was a very young age, far too young to probably have been.
Right, you shouldn't be watching this movie.
And I have no problem saying it.
It's relatively annoying.
Scared the crap out of me. No, when I was a kid, this scared the utter crap out of me. There was parts of this movie that haunted my dreams forever, and I still have nightmares from this movie. But I love it. This is just a great movie overall. Definitely excited to talk about it. You're just preparing for this episode. We both learned even more than we knew about it, so I'm excited about that. Including the fact that it was really low budget, which as you're watching, especially now, we can see it in the effects. But
the crazy part is with some of these effects, these are made by one of the masters of special effects, Stan Winston Studios.
What else did they do?
I believe he did Aliens. He did he's done so many. You've probably seen his work, and you probably don't even know it. He was a master. I think he since passed away. I can't be sure, but I think he did.
So they were animatronic kind of stuff, and
he actually made at one point they made the exoskeleton for the Terminator. Endo. You're right. Excuse me. It's inside Endo. Was actually made out of metal, and they realized well, it looked cool. It's super heavy to carry around.
Yeah, it could be a problem. Yeah, they don't have that futuristic metal. They're probably made out of in the
hollow alloy.
It's a mimetic polyalloy. That's spoiler. That's the second movie.
Oh, it's the second. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with that, we'll get into the recap and talk. But yeah, I'm very excited for this one. This is a part of my childhood. I love. This was a great movie. So stay tuned for the recap.
Movie recap.
So moving on, we will get to the recap for the Terminator. So I'll be doing a lot of this from memory because I very much know this movie. So the movie opens, as any futuristic post-apocalyptic movie would, with a glimpse of that future post-apocalyptic world.
Doom and gloom.
Super doom and gloom. In this world, it's actually I believe we are in Los Angeles of 2029. This is we'll find out later.
Too far off.
Oh boy! I'm side note quick. I remember when finding out from Terminator 2, spoiler, that was on gonna be August 4th, 1996. 1998. No, was it August 4th? Oh man, I can't forget this now. August 4th, 1996.
Are you sure it was 96? I thought it was 98 too, but
maybe 98. Yeah. So I remember thinking I counting down that day. I was so scared. I was like, oh boy, we made it past. But anyway, in this movie we don't learn too much about that yet, but right now we start with futuristic battlefield in 2029 Los Angeles. This is after a nuclear war that we find out is between the machines, the AI that arose, and it's wanting to wipe out humanity across the globe. what's left, the survivors called the War Judgment Day. That is basically the humans versus the machines. And what we see in this first scene is the big tanks called the Hunter Killers, as well as the flying HKs, which are flying Hunter Killers. They're very good at their naming convention. Yeah, very, very methodic in there.
Machine-like in there.
I mean, what's it do? It hunts and it kills. As you can see, it sucks and it cuts.
They want to call it the butterfly, like some intimidating.
That would be nice. They go, oh, look, it's a butterfly zap. So as it pans across this this barren world, we see a lot of laser fights between the big machines and the remaining soldiers. So you see that, and it looks like they're basically losing, and it's not a fun watch. Even there's skulls all over the place, and human remains are getting crushed by the machines, and their only goal is to wipe out humanity, basically. So with that being said, cue the opening title sequence with everyone in it, and then of course we show the present day, which in this case is 1984 when the movie came out. Present day, 1984, Los Angeles, and we see a relatively innocent-looking lightning storm localized in a spear show up, and
with a local sanitation worker smoking a cigar at the job, like just trying to dump their trash.
And a naked Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he shows up. And basically, he has no clothes on. We'll learn this later why, but and he looks very menacingly, and he goes after his first objective, which is getting some clothes to blend in. So, and this is kind of funny. His first stop is at an observatory where there's a group of punks just being 80s punks, starring
Bill Paxton.
That's right. Bill Paxton is in this. He plays a blue-haired punk, I believe.
No, I don't know if you realize this or not. I didn't realize it until we started researching for this. Bill Paxton has been beat up by every major Hollywood creation. So he gets beat up by the Terminator.
Aliens.
He gets beat up by the Alien. He also gets beat up by the Predator.
Really?
And he gets beat up by a regular Arnold Schwarzenegger in True Lies.
That's funny. That's the best one, though, I think. Loved that. Big love that. The Predator. Which Predator was in?
He was in Predator 2.
Okay.
He gets killed by the Predator in Predator 2.
Nice boys. You can man on those.
Terminator, Predator, Alien, and Arnie again.
That works. Well, then I'm glad he was in this because it was good. So, intimidating fashion, the Terminator does steal the clothes and beats up some punks. And learning some local vernacular. That is some very, very obscene language I can't say on this podcast. So he's going on his way. He walks off to do his mission. And next we meet the hero of the story, Kyle Reese. He is a human resistance warrior who comes back in time to protect a certain somebody named Sarah Connor. We'll learn why too a little later on. But so him coming back, he is also naked. He shows a lot of pain, but he too gets clothes. Basically runs for the police who think he's just like a homeless guy going around. And then that's basically all we get from that. And next few scenes, Terminator's building up his arsenal. He goes to the local gun store, and thanks to the laws of that time, he was able to walk out with whatever he needed.
The laws of the time, he broke the law, but we'll get into that after, because that's one of the things I want to cover.
Sure, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. And Kyle Reese is able to get a weapon as well from a police car, and he hides and basically tries to look for Sarah Connor. As the Terminator begins his hunt, he does it very methodically.
Yeah.
He goes to the phone book, because this is pre-internet days. He uses the phone book to look up all the Sarah Connors, and he basically goes down the line. From the first Sarah Connor, he goes to house and murders them all, terminates them all, because he doesn't know which one is the real one. And Kyle Reese does have a picture, so he knows what she looks like. So he's able to spot her. And on a night when she's out, he tails her to see. Basically, he doesn't know what the Terminator looks like, so he needs to tail her just so he can wait for the Terminator to make a move, and then he knows where to strike and jump in. So one night, Sarah Connor's walking around. She sees Kyle Reese following her, thinking he's a bad guy. So she hides out in a techno. 80s techno nightclub with some cool 80s music playing, of course. And of course, the Terminator has found her too through means of her following her home address. And long story short, Sarah leaves a message on her own answering machine for her roommate to come get her at this club because she's worried she's being followed. And in a lovely, ironic twist, Terminator hears that, and even and in the message she tells him where she is, and he takes that, kills the roommate, and goes to get her. And meanwhile, if she never called, he would never have found her, and he would have thought the roommate was her, and it would have been over. But nope, she called, and that's what happened. That's a good twist.
Sweet irony.
Sweet irony. Going back to the techno club known as Techno Noir, I believe.
Which was coined by James Cameron, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
That's good to know. Terminator shows up. Kyle Reese is in there. Sarah does call the police, but they kind of put her on hold and they don't get to her. Enter the Terminator, who goes right for Sarah now that he has a picture of her that he found in her apartment. And Kyle Reese steps in, takes him out with a shotgun, momentarily, of course, doesn't put him down for very long. And he says the famous lines, "Come with me if you want to live." That is Terminator classic. And he rescues her, and they go off, and the Terminator recovers and tries to catch them. With that being said, from there the story basically goes out with Kyle telling Sarah more about the future and basically why she's so important, and we learn it's because of her son. Her son, John Connor, will be the one who, he's not born yet, he will be the one who will lead the resistance for the humans against the machines in the future. So he... in a sense, the Skynet, who's the main bad guy, who's the AI that controls all the robots and machines, they figured if you can't beat him in the future, nip him in the past. So figure you take out Sarah Connor in the past, there's no John Connor, and you win the war. And this is obviously ignoring all time loopholes and issues we have with time travel. So let's just go for a ride, guys. It's fun. That's what we do. And so... After hearing all this, of course, Sarah Connor doesn't believe her, but then she sees how tough the Terminator is and how he clearly is a machine, and so she finally starts believing him, and ultimately, I'll skip ahead right after there's not too many. Ultimately, the Terminator is hunting them down. They make some special pipe bombs and things to fight back. They have no futuristic weapons. The reason why they couldn't bring any weapons back is their time displacement unit, which is what they use for time travel, only sends organic material back. That means living tissue. This is so doubles up the reason why the Terminator has a living tissue over a metal endoskeleton. So the living tissue on the outside not only makes them look more human and blend in for infiltration, but it also allows them to time travel. So that's twofold. That's good. And coming up to the final scene when their Terminators finally catch them down, chases them into a machine factory, basically. They were able to blow up the vehicle that Terminator was in. Terminator still follows them. You think the Terminator is dead, but boom, after the vehicle he's in blows up, sheet of fire blows away all of the living tissue, and the endoskeleton arises. It's the first time we actually see
one of the coolest movie for me, one of the coolest movie villains in cinema.
And it's great because this is one of the times it's the first time in the movie you see the full-blown robot endoskeleton, and it's terrifying.
It is.
And it's still injured. It has a limp to it, but it still chases both Sarah and Kyle Reese into the building, in which case the Terminator finally does get Kyle as he basically blows up the Terminator with another pipe bomb. He takes him out and the Terminator, or so we think. No, that's right. The Terminator survives. The top half was blown off to where Sarah was, right next to it, and he's basically crawling with his hands to chase Sarah, who wonderfully catches it with a wonderful line, "You're terminated, effer." That's all I can say. And she hits the button to crush him in a hydraulic press. And that's the only thing that finally destroys the Terminator. Fast forward. After this, we learn that Sarah Connor is basically prepping for what's to come. She is now pregnant with John because of the lovely night that her and Kyle Reese had. So there's a little mind twist for you. Kyle Reese was sent back, and John Connor sent him back knowing that he was his father. And that's what happened. Even though he died, he knew that he was sending his own father to his death. And he had to do so or he wouldn't be born. So the movie ends with a storm coming in the distance, her driving off into it, knowing as a good manifestation of what's going on and what's to come. And we are left for waiting for what comes next in Terminator 2. Is that a pretty good wrap up?
That was an extensive recap. That was pretty impressive.
I don't. Yeah, sorry if I rambled, folks. It's just a really, I mean, the movie. We'll get into it. It's worth a watch.
You don't have to watch the movie, folks. Thanks for listening. Bye.
That's the end of our show. No, I think. But yeah, so there's some iconic scenes that I didn't touch on now.
No,
but
there's
like,
so many scenes.
There's a scene at basically at one point in the middle after Kyle Reese rescues Sarah from the nightclub, the police do catch up to them and they arrest them. And they end up at the police station, which is one of the famous scenes.
If that didn't happen, we wouldn't have one of the most famous scenes in cinema history.
Good point. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even put that up. So, in case you're wondering, the Terminator sees them get arrested, knows where they are, and shows up to the police station a little while later with an arsenal on him. And he very innocently walks in, asks to see Sarah Connor. I heard that she's here. Can I see her, please? I think that's exactly the line.
That actually is pretty, yeah.
And they say no, can't do questioning. So we come back later, and so he looks around the area that's blocking him out, which is like the glass window of the precinct, like where
I don't know if you noticed it, but it's like a typical machine. He looks around, then he looks up, he looks down, and he looks around, like seeing because we know it's gonna come.
Yeah, he's like,
we didn't know what was gonna come next when we saw it.
Yep.
But he was scanning the whole area.
He was basically like taking measurements and if something would fit in the window. Because this next scene later, you see headlights flash, and all of a sudden, even though it's actually a goof, I never saw that.
Yeah.
The headlights flash, but the car comes plowing through the door into that window and basically breaks him into the precinct.
Yeah.
The goof up being, of course, that when it shows the car coming in, the lights are off. So, I skipped over the line, didn't I?
You did.
I did. So before that happens, he scans the area, and he says the famous line, "I'll be back."
And the funny part about that is that was Schwarzenegger wanted it. That was the only time that Schwarzenegger and Cameron actually got into a fight, because Schwarzenegger felt like "I'll be back" was going to be too feminine, and a machine wouldn't talk with like that hyphenation. So
they wouldn't.
So "I'll come back" was going to be what it was, and they fought over that line.
I thought you just didn't like. I thought you wanted to say "I will be back."
And but that's what he said.
Yeah,
but Cameron had wrote it as "I will be back."
Yeah.
And then "I will be back," because that's how he felt the machine would say it. And finally,
right.
It was, but he got to the point where Cameron literally told Schwarzenegger, "I don't tell you how to act. Don't tell me how to write."
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I mean, because that then it ended up being like I agree. I think from the movie perspective, I think the machine would say "I will be back." But the only other thing I'll argue is, and knowing this is my Terminator nerdism coming through here, but they have a learning computer, a neural net, and he's been around enough people lately, so his voice and things could have started to adapt.
I mean, that actually makes sense.
So I'm okay with it in the story sense, but otherwise I do agree with Arnold that like a straight up machine, probably, especially when
I think in 1984, like not even like you and I just talking right now, like, and it's funny we're talking about like AI. What is everyone using right now? AI. You're right. AI has been like AI. Yeah. Listen to us. We put it. You're right. But in '84, I don't know if they really knew that. So yes, you're right. That's actually a good point too. Yeah.
So that's a recap. I figure we'll have a lot to talk about in our discussion, and I think there's probably nothing too much more we need to talk about in this recap part. So the main character, once again, Kyle Reese, is the human protector sent back by the Resistance.
Played by Michael Biehn.
He's great.
Yeah.
He is honestly a really good. He had some iconic lines. The heart and emotion was there. It really worked. And Sarah Connor was played by Linda Hamilton, who later married James Cameron.
And they got divorced shooting. They got to do it after this.
Yep. So there's some iconic scenes we'll get into in the discussion, but I think that's good for a recap, and so stay tuned for our discussion.
Romantic discussion.
Now that was a very long-winded, very fast-spoken recap. I apologize, everybody. I get excited. But I would recommend watching the movie and even coming back here for this discussion now if you wanted to. I can't do the plot full justice in a quick recap, even as I spoke. But yeah, going into this movie, I was very excited to do this for the show. In the past, it's always been Matt knowing all the movies and all the parts, and I have to, watch movies further out. This one I knew in and out. And this is one of my favorite movies of all time, easily. So that being said, you have anything you want to talk about?
I think this movie, and I enjoy this movie. I do like this movie. For me, I can't. I don't know why. I've never sat down. I've watched T2 a million times, but not this one for some reason. I don't know why. I watched it again recently for the podcast because I wanted to make sure I knew the ins and outs. It's great, and thinking about it and watching it again, I know there's some campy stuff in there. We know that, like the scene where Arnold starts to fix his eye, and it's a puppet. That puppet took 6 months to make.
Wow.
It took Stan Winston 6 months, and it's fake because it's not really Arnold, but it's just watching that. But even that scene where he comes, the iconic where he comes through the fire and you see it, it's awe inspiring to see it because it is truly terrifying.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's funny because, I've always been one to believe that a lot of times practical effects really hold up. And real stunts, that sort of thing, those hold up. So, a lot of old CGI doesn't hold up. We watched 10 years later, but this movie was one of the first, where I feel like it didn't hold up enough. And learning that this was a low budget film, I could see why, even with that puppet and for the head, we're cutting out his eye and things like that. I'm sure it was good enough in the 80s to get people to go, oh, wow, it's crazy. And a scene we're talking about is after one of the fights, the Terminator gets shot in the eye. And so in robot fashion, he goes back to his headquarters, his little apartment that he has. And he proceeds to cut out the eye, the fleshy human part, exposing the red, glowing, scary, evil Terminator eye. And actually, I will say this too. This is one of the things that bothers me about Terminator franchise. This is in every movie after this, spoiler alert, Arnold Schwarzenegger as a Terminator always wears sunglasses. Mm-hmm. And this is the only reason why it made sense. He had to wear, because this is a reason for it. He has a red glowing eye. He needed dark glasses to cover. Yeah. In the other movies, just to keep the look, he just grabs them, and it gets so bad. Even in the third movie, it becomes a really bad joke. So I hate that. But we'll get into that at some point too. I'm probably not going to review it in this podcast. But he comes to the point where he walks in and grabs these pink frilly flower glasses. Right, yeah. And he puts them on, and then he realizes he doesn't like them, and he tries to break some, and then grabs a real pair of black glasses. So it's come on,
making fun of itself as it goes. But yeah, you're right.
Terminator movie, I feel like can't do that. You can't make fun of itself.
Well, the first time now is just
in Terminator 2, I'll allow it because it looked really good. Yeah. So yeah, but in this case, there's this scene where he's repairing his eye. There's a puppet that's basically a moving
animatronic, yeah.
And it's spliced pretty well. You'll see one scene of him kind of holding a scalpel close to his eye, the actual actor, and then you'll see some blood drips into the sink, and then it'll show then it'll cut to the animatronic head.
Yeah.
And then finally you see the eyeball drop into the sink.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the animatronic. I think this is the problem too. The animatronic is what puts the glasses on. And I feel like that's...
Yes, and it looks like... So but fake. Even if you look at the head turn, it just is very... But once again, can we he's a machine. But the problem was, Arnold didn't play him that way throughout the whole time. He looked too fluid. That was the problem. I think if it was... Arnold had played him a little bit more animatronic throughout the movie, but when he turns, you can... It's like an animatronic when you go to Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
That's what it's too fake. It's too fake.
That's the thing. As an infiltrator unit, he really shouldn't be that robotic. He should still pass as a human. If he made those movements, it'd be too obvious.
To be honest with you, I get, you were talking about practical effects versus CG. I give people, movies, film crews, the credit for doing the practical effects, even if it looks fake, because it took time, energy, and a setup. Because you can go into a computer nowadays, type something in, the computer will spit something back out.
Yeah,
that's somebody's artistic integrity, that's somebody's artistic ability, and blood, sweat, and tears putting into a practical effect. I appreciate that, even if it looks fake. I know it looks fake, and that's why I think I love the campiness of it, because it's someone trying to do something realistic that could almost be impossible.
But in the same token, I would say that there are plenty of CGI effects that aren't necessarily from the computer. There's still artists drawing things out.
Right, yes.
And I think even then in the 80s, CG wasn't it wasn't there.
No. And it was a little bit home.
Yep.
For that time.
So I think, but yeah, I do appreciate that what was there. And it's funny because we'll eventually cover, but Terminator 2 does a good job of mixing the two, pretty well. What I do like about CGI, the only thing I will say is, a lot of movies don't touch it up later, but you can touch it up, which is nice. So if something's purely CG, you can that movie come out as a special edition later, and they could just revamp those scenes, and it looks brand new again.
Yeah.
They made improvements to the Terminator 2 DVDs and stuff too. You could see it in the effects. But this movie, going back to it, yes, I think the effects were great for the time. They were good enough. And they were smart for the endoskeleton scenes. They used a good mix of an actual prop versus, and then a couple like clay model kind of a thing.
Stop motion.
Yeah, stop motion effect, and it worked. The parts that needed to be real were, and it was terrifying. I thought that was good. With this movie in general, for me, like, this is like, I don't know, did you see this movie before too?
No, I saw this. To be honest with you, this movie, I was a kid. I can't remember if I saw bits and pieces. I never saw this movie start to end when I was younger. I think I saw T2 into the entire before I watched this movie.
I'm the same way. I think I saw parts of this before seeing Terminator 2, but I didn't really know the story yet or anything. I remember just seeing it, and then I saw Terminator 2, and then eventually I saw the full of Terminator 1. So with that being said, I think growing up and everything, I think I like Terminator 2 a little bit better just because it's a great sequel. Probably, I argue it's better than the original.
We covered that in one. I think it's one of the best sequels in cinema.
But this movie, had it all. What I really liked about this movie was the sense of dread. It just was like, the whole thing. You have this scenario where this futuristic, enemy. Kyle Reese says it. When Sarah asks him, "Can it be stopped?" He said, "I don't know." No. With the weapons and with these times, I don't know. And that was the first time for me in a movie where it's like, wow, like, to be so heavily outmatched by. It's not like it's a legion, an army coming. No, one single being thing is gonna outmatch them because they just don't have the weapons to really destroy him. And that's terrifying. So when you have these scenes where he's chasing them down, it's just like I remember. Even to this day, watching it now, I still have that dread, and I love that.
I think that's like the hallmark of it. Like, in Jaws, like if you're watching the movie Jaws, like pulling you in and giving you that sense of dread. Like that's the one of the hallmarks of a good movie.
Yeah.
And I think just the creativity. Do you know how this movie came about?
No. Oh, it was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare. He got fired off a film in Rome. He had no money for food. He had a fever dream, and the fever dream was the endoskeleton crawling through the fire with kitchen knives. He got so startled, he drew it up. He brought it to Stan Winston. Basically, Stan did a few tweaks, but most of that design for the Terminator was James Cameron.
That's crazy. Yeah, God, what a nightmare that would be. I have nightmares after watching it, so I know where the concept came from. I couldn't imagine like being the original creator of that in my head in a nightmare. But I mean. The other thing, if we'll dive deep in it for a little bit, is this is one of the plenty of movies about it since Matrix or something else. But this is one of the first that I remember really, really, really showed the fear and the realism of AI, like what it can do, what it had, and people still quote this for things like tools we use now, Chat GPT and all these other AI systems. The joke is which one of these is Skynet? Which one is going to stand up?
Which one's going to come after us first? Yeah.
So it's funny in the Terminator universe, Skynet basically turns on humans as self-defense. The humans basically got scared of it, but what it was doing and what it could do, and tried to pull the plug. And it was like, okay, you're gonna try to kill me? I got you. That was also
launched all of the nukes simultaneously.
Yep.
Yeah.
It launched in Terminator 2. We find it out exactly what happened, but so basically, Skynet launches the nukes at Russia, and does so knowing that Russia's counterattack will eliminate everything here. So it basically covers the whole world, and the whole world is basically destroyed. And from there, the few survivors and everything else, that's when they live to face the new nightmare, the war against the machines. So yeah, I think there's a lot of realism in the fear of AI and how we do things now. We're still, I say we're still pretty far off from true AI. I know we have these general speech kind of AIs that we use for ChatGPT, and they come across as super sentient, but and seemingly alive. But it's just a really, really good trick because it knows how to use speech so well, and it has a lot of data to work with. So it's not really true AI. It's not thinking for itself. A lot of times it's just a regurgitation and a mixing of what it already knows, and that's great. It's great for what it does, but yeah, there's a real real problem if as AI grows and we trust it more, and just like the movies, they put it in charge of more things. What happens. So we got to be careful with it. You're always going to have the people who are going to plow forward no matter what in the name of progress and think that this is the way to go, and the people that are just scared of it and don't want to go. And it'll be interesting to see how the next decade or so pans out for AI.
So it's kind of a scary thought, and I don't know. Do you think Cameron set out to do this movie to put the fear in to put AI a fear in AI, or no?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it was good timing because in the '80s, you think about there was a lot of technology in general was really, I'd say. '80s were a good time. That's when you had VCRs, Betamaxes, you had video game systems, all these new technologies coming out, and I think it was a good. I would say that there's probably some purpose to it, and showing the failings and what can happen with reliance on technology and what could happen. And at that time too, it makes for really good nightmare fuel, because it's just at that stage, I'm sure he's not the first person to come up with robots and things like that. Twilight Zone from the '60s had these things, but I think in the '80s. It was probably the first time where people could see I can see these things happening. We have computers now that are stronger than ever. The joke being things stuff on microwaves had stronger computers than they had to land on the moon.
Yeah, right. Right.
So it's so in the '80s, these computers were very powerful, and it was, so I think knowing that and how that could it became more realistic that this could be a thing. I think it was frightening as hell.
Cameron made you fear technology. Spielberg made you fear the water.
Yep. So I stayed in my room a lot.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, it's just funny. They kind of did the same thing, just years apart. Spielberg made Jaws. Everyone's afraid to go in the water. Probably after Terminator.
Yeah.
Put a fear, because remember 2000, everyone was afraid of the computer.
Yeah.
It put fear. Yeah. So
for any of our younger audience, if we have them, Y2K was a scary time for us millennials and Gen Xers and older. They
believed Judgment Day was going to happen that day.
Yeah. They thought all the computers were going to shut down. I mean, and to be fair, there was truth to it. Basically what happened was we went from 99 to 2000. So the years that are stored in computers for a quicker, for storage sake, instead of storing a date as 1999 or 1998, they would just do 99, because you could save 2 spaces, and when added up 1 billion times, that was a lot of space you could save. So the worry was that when it went from 99 back to 00, that computer systems wouldn't know what to do with that, because that date doesn't really exist. So, it's almost like it's resetting. So people thought credit scores were going to change, all those things. And for, like I said, a lot of things it could have, but they had months to prepare, and they did end up fixing it. They made it so it stores the whole date. And that's basically what fixed it. But that was Y2K. That was the scare in a nutshell. And everything went crazy. People were talking about planes falling out of the sky. Yeah. And that was never going to be like that.
I remember sitting in front and watching the ball drop, and it was like, my TV's going to turn off.
Yeah. I was like, oh, God. Yeah, that was, I mean, it was on everyone's mind. It was enough to, it was. Technology has always been something that, it's a double-edged sword. It's great, but there's also a lot of scary aspects to it. We rely on it so much, and it controls a lot of our lives, whether we know it or not.
I think, it was a fun time in the '80s and '90s with technology, and now it's getting even crazier. But, going back to this movie, like I said, this movie a lot better than I do. What did you think of the casting, and the casting, and just basically, the robotics, the relentless, and almost no doubt, how do you feel like it was played out?
Yeah, I think like I said, I usually this is your part of the show where you give the tidbits and fun facts, but I know that in the casting of Arnold Schwarzenegger, they were originally going to cast O.J. Simpson, Juice, to do the
Juice. He's going to be loose,
as the Terminator.
Yeah.
And it was funny because Arnold Schwarzenegger had this lunch with Cameron after hearing about this, and he was just basically saying hey, for the Terminator, make sure that he is able to, load and unload guns and take them apart without looking, because a machine could do that. He wouldn't need to use his eyes. Another thing that was really important too, which I agree it adds to the craziness of it, is not blinking or flinching when you're firing a gun. A robot wouldn't do that. So he had all these ideas and things, like how he should talk, how he should act. And I think Cameron eventually was just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna go with you. If you want it, you're hired. And that's how he got the part.
Cameron actually went to that meeting because he was worried about the character of Reese.
Yeah, okay.
And he didn't want Reese to be like a big bulky guy. He thought Arnold, so he was gonna set up Arnold and like start an argument with Arnold.
That's funny.
To get him out of the role of Reese,
because he was gonna be Reese.
Because he was gonna be Reese, and he didn't. And then because there was talks of like Bruce Willis playing Reese, Matt Dillon, even your boy Kurt Russell was in talks to play Reese.
Yeah, it's fine. I can't see another person. I think just as Arnold Schwarzenegger was the only choice for Terminator, I think Michael Biehn was the only choice for Reese, because he needed to be a relatively unknown, I think, as an actor. Yeah. At least for me, he was at that point, and he is on the younger side. And I think he could play that role of, I feel like even Schwarzenegger, Kurt Russell, Burt Reynolds, but no, Bruce Willis. I think they all would have played the role as like the tough action star. Yeah, a little too much, and that's not what he needed. Like, he needed this unsure, hope he knows what he's doing, in over his head kind of a feeling guy. It's like he's in the past, doesn't know what he's doing. He just knows he has to protect this woman.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. No, I agree. I don't think Reese. I think Bean was a perfect choice for Reese. So, but also for the Terminator, there were a few other well-known actors that could have played it. So, how would you feel if the Terminator had, worn blue face paint, possibly had a slight lisp, or had a crazy, super sexy mustache? So, the three actors that were possibly in roles were Mel Gibson as the Terminator, and then the other one was Stallone. So the Terminator. I'll be back. Or Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, absolutely not. Wow, that would never work. The only thing I'll say that's funny with Sylvester Stallone is the fact, as a teaser in Last Action Hero, where it's like an alternate reality Los Angeles, it shows Sylvester Stallone as a Terminator in the film store. So now it makes sense because it's actually considered. But going back to, I guess, out of those three, Sylvester Stallone's probably the only one I would accept.
You wouldn't accept Gibson?
No, I think. Okay, so to me, and this isn't necessarily for the logic of Skynet, because Skynet would realistically want someone who could blend in the best and be in good. So Skynet maybe would want, but for me as the viewer, he never would have been intimidating enough. To me, it was, and I'm going to spoil a little bit. In Terminator 2, the T-1000, played by a much smaller, scrawnier Robert Patrick. He didn't have the part. He didn't have the physicality, but he had the facial expressions.
He could look right through you. Right? Yeah.
So that made up for it. I feel like for being smaller, Mel Gibson wouldn't have had that to him, so he would never have been as intimidating. Arnold Schwarzenegger had the size, so he's this big dude. The way he talked, the way he acted, I think that worked perfectly. The only way you could have had like a scrawnier, more like a smaller, more invisible, so to speak, human Terminator would be someone who had the fear somewhere else, which is, like I said, Robert Patrick did cover. So I would say no. I couldn't take it as, I think for Terminator 1, with being what it was, for those actors, I think he needed to be this big guy. I think that's how people thought of robots too. I think it fit better. In Terminator 2, they played it a little bit different, where, spoiler alert again, if you didn't see the trailers for Terminator 2, you would go into that not knowing which one's the good or bad Terminator. Right. They weren't obvious about it. So it was really cool. You weren't quite sure which one was the good or bad. So so I think the cast was perfect for those two roles. I mean, Sarah Connor, she did great. And this role is funny. She killed it in Terminator 2 for how the character development. But in this movie, if they only made one, she didn't stand out enough she could have been anybody. I feel like she was just basically damsel in distress in this movie.
But it's funny, like they kind of credit Cameron with starting like that female action role with like Linda Hamilton.
Yeah,
and that's not what he said he set out to do. Yeah, but
I mean, she ultimately was, she won the day. But for the most of the movie, she was
I mean, if you think about it, she was pretty badass, and like, started that like kind of badass woman like kind of movement a little bit, like when
Terminator 2 especially.
well, especially, but yeah, with this one, she kind of set that stage like, well, maybe we can do that.
Man, I don't know, that one scene in the beginning where you first see her on her Vespa going around.
But that was the whole point. With her. I was like, she was so naive. She was a college student, and she was so naive. I mean, you even said it. She called up and said like, "Hey, come save me. This is where I'm at," and and she didn't make that call. So
that's true. Yeah, no, I mean, she was good. I wouldn't, swap her out for any other reason, but I would just say, but overall, I think it was a very tight. It's funny you're talking about, we should do the actors' names, but the cops,
Hendrick, was it Heckerson? I always say his name wrong.
Was that the chief?
No, he was the
other guy.
The other guy, like the sergeant. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. All right. So
played in Aliens actually. He played the. Yeah.
So he was good, and it's funny. The character's name Silverman is the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
He plays in all the Terminator movies, and he did a good job.
Yeah.
Some of the best scenes in this movie were in the police station where he is interrogating Kyle Reese because they think he's crazy, and he just goes off and talks about how like the Terminator will not stop, it'll run, it'll basically not stop till he runs. It's like fist through her heart.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That one scene, Bean did a great job taking that role because in that end, when he has to pause it when they're like, "Doc, stop it," and he like jumps at the screen. That was all like they weren't expecting him to do it. He jumped at the camera like.
Oh wow, yeah, that was great. The face expression, it was just it's one of those things where if the audience didn't already know the Terminator's a Terminator, like you would, I think that would be convincing. That would convince me that okay, it's Terminator's a Terminator.
Yeah,
like it was just he's not crazy. That's just, he's speaking from memory and knowing. So yeah, that was a great scene. The whole, and then obviously the most tragic and crazy part of the movie is when the Terminator shows up at the police station and just wipes everyone out. Like he kills basically everyone. Even like they said the chief and the sergeant, they were like prominent characters in the movie.
Yeah.
They showed them in the beginning when looking for all the Sarah Connor. So I was shocked when that was it. Mm-hmm. They killed them too. It was the only ones that survived the police station were Kyle Reese, Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
Silverman left. Right before
as the Terminator walked in. Yeah.
So, in fact, he checks his beeper, I think. Yeah. So he misses. He doesn't even
see the guy walk in. Yeah, don't see the Terminator walk in. Yeah.
Cute little thing. So yeah, that was incredible. Yeah. So the only ones that were actually in the police station to leave were just Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. One of the other things that's cool too is after they escape the police station, in order to find them again to reacquire them, Terminator goes out to her mother's
Big Bear
cabin, Big Bear, and the scene is great because basically Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese are holding up in this random hotel, and every movie, don't call anybody. What does she do? She calls somebody. She calls her mother, says want her to worry. And the scene, you hear her talking to the mother, and it's just like I'm fine, don't worry. And you hear the mother talking back, oh, where are you, dear? I miss you, sweetheart. And the background, you see it's all like the doors busted in, things are on fire, and it cuts to the Terminator talking in the mother's voice, and that was like scary as hell. Like it's like no, tell me where you are. And so she gives him the address, of course, or she gives him the number of the hotel and the room they're in. And Terminator hangs up, calls us, I need your address there. And that's how he finds them. So
don't Google it.
He didn't Google it. Yeah. Can you imagine in a Terminator movie in this day and age, it'd just be like it'd be one and done.
Screwed. Maybe be screwed. He'd find you in a second. It doesn't matter.
Book. Oh, there's Sarah.
He wouldn't even need to do that. He'd have it in his. It would be already programmed in.
You know when?
Why?
The nuclear fire destroyed most of the records.
That's right. You're right.
So they wouldn't have it. That's what he had. That's why he needed to use the phone book. You're not gonna get me on this one, Nat. This is my movie. So no, that's the one have it. But yes, he'd be able to go to any computer and be like, "Yep, there it is. Oh wow, Sarah Connor's partying last night.
Yeah,
here she is.
There's pics.
Yeah. So and that'd be a problem. Find her OnlyFans page.
Yeah. So for you, I know you love this movie. Like, what about this movie makes you love it? Like, for me, like most of the time, it's like directing, it's dialogue. It's just what about this movie like really makes you love it?
The tone, overall tone, like I said, the sense of dread, the hopelessness of it, really drives the story for me and the action. I love the iconic lines. The spoken dialogue is good. I mean the cinematography's great. Like I said, it's gritty, it's dark. It's funny. I don't know if there's really, besides the first scene where you really see Sarah Connor, there's so few just like sunny days. It's all like very dark.
The way it's filmed is gives you that sense of it's all shot at night. Well, I mean, there was a reason for that. It was a low budget film, and they didn't have they didn't pull a lot of permits for a lot of these scenes.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like there's one scene where he breaks he breaks the car window to basically steal a car, and I was reading about this later. He found out he basically told Arnold, Cameron called up Arnold and said, hey, we got to get this scene without permits or anything. They literally walked up to a car, smashed a window, got it on tape, and ran away.
Like I read about that too, and they literally had Arnold, like, they had his costume. Yeah. Then they had his street clothes behind the car. As soon as they broke the scene, they made Arnold change, and they went for this scene.
And it's funny because, like, could the movie have done without that scene? Maybe, probably, but it's just, but especially knowing that story, it makes it all that better. But yeah, to think that, to have such a low budget for a movie like that, it makes you wonder if, the studios got behind it more, were able to put bigger budget into what it could have been.
But would it have ruined it?
I don't know. I don't know if it's true, so I do have to fact check this one, but supposedly he had the thought of the T-1000 for this movie, but knew that it couldn't really be done with practical effects. It needed to be like a CGI kind of thing, and he knew it wasn't there yet, so he didn't want it. So that's why it didn't get included. So it makes you wonder if like a bigger budget would have made him try that, and it probably would have failed because technology wasn't there, and it would have just looked terrible. So I don't know, but I think. But I think for what they had and what they were able to come out with, it's pretty incredible. Even down to the music, I love too. I mean, the Terminator theme is something that's just like iconic to me. Like it's just as iconic to the Batman theme. Like I'll always remember it.
I watched it again recently, like I said, to prepare for the podcast, and I just watching it, and I was like, this movie the soundtrack is 80s, and I'm like, well, it's 80s, but it also fits. It's very mechanically, like it's mechanical, and it's supposed to be because it's about a machine that's a Terminator. So like, if I know it's the 80s and that was the sound, but it just really fits. Like I couldn't picture it with any other 80s kind of synth soundtrack. It just fits. It really is good.
And it's funny. And Terminator 2 does the same thing with the 90s. You get the metal, and it's just the Guns N' Roses theme. They both work well for what they were. I think they were great.
Cameron does a great job. I mean, that's why he's one of the top directors in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, these movies are the reason why I even gave Titanic a shot. Like I was like, oh man, and I still watched it, but like,
but Paxton in that movie too. Jesus, the bolt gets him, and that's
it's good. Screw the 7 steps to bacon there. So I think it was Paxton. Yeah, like it's 4 degrees.
Like Lewis Tyson got beat up or screwed over by.
I was like, you can take any Hollywood monster and connect it to Bill Paxton in 4 moves or less. But yeah, that's crazy how he gets around. So I think for time-wise, I think we'll start wrapping up this discussion. This is something where we maybe if we get feedback from you viewers, want to hear certain discussions further about certain movies, we can make other episodes about just continuing discussions. But I think is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, I think factoids. No, I think like one of the. Schwarzenegger was, he had a lot of big movies going on during this time, and there were some scenes, and Schwarzenegger, like doing the research for this, like really got into like the role and stuff like that. I was looking at it. At one scene, like when he got burned, I think when he got into the car crash, he had to shave. He shaved off his eyebrows.
Eyebrows.
He actually went to Lloyd's of London and had his eyebrows insured, in case they didn't grow back.
Wow. That's interesting.
But he could have probably moved for season. He probably covered them up, but he shaved them off, which...
Yeah, I knew they were off in the movie. I didn't know necessarily if he actually shaved them or not.
He shaved them, and he went to Lloyd's of London to get them insured in case they didn't grow back.
I also heard, too, the makeup for him, the procedure then, like the process, there's a scene where half his face is kind of ripped off, and you see the eye, and that was... I imagine painstaking for him to do at that point.
And after that scene, he forgot he had it on. He went to lunch like out in Hollywood with that on, and he realized when he walked in, his students started staring at him. He was missing eye, the jawbone in the face, that flesh burned. He walked in to go have lunch.
Yes, and going back to that, to me that still held up pretty well. Practical effects for that was good. I'll accept that.
Yeah.
It's funny too in the scene where he's chasing him in a truck when he has that prosthetic on. I don't even notice this, but like when it's showing like Kyle and Sarah in the car in front, in the way background, you can see the red eye in the cockpit of the truck. So the driver's seat. It's crazy. It's all you see. See the truck
detail.
Yeah, I love that. The fact that just us as the audience can still see that red eye coming out. That's frightening as hell.
Yeah.
So that was good. All right. Well, I think with that being said, I think we are going to talk about our favorite scenes. Believe it or not, I can pick one. Even though I love this movie, I could pick one favorite scene. So we'll get back to that in a second, and we'll, stay tuned for our favorite scenes.
Favorite scenes.
All right, favorite scene. Time for that time to pick our favorite scene and to have the other one guess. I have my favorite scene in a little bit reverse order. Only Matt guesses mine first because this is kind of my movie thing. This time I will guess Matt's first. And if I had to guess Matt's favorite scene in this movie, I would guess it would be, without a doubt, post-truck blowing up and the Terminator rising out of the fire and endoskeleton for the first time.
It is my favorite scene in the movie. I'm gonna give you that, but I do have a couple other like snippets, but that is that's an iconic scene. You can't.
No.
It's that thing coming out of the fire, and
and how do they set it up to like? I was want to bring up the cinematography and the whole. So for those who don't know, this scene happens after the Terminator's chasing Sarah on foot in a truck and is about to basically run her over.
The truck is an oil tanker truck.
It's this huge thing.
I think it's a gas truck. Sorry, not oil. Gas truck.
And Kyle Reese, as a last minute ditch effort, drops a pipe bomb in the exhaust of the truck. Yeah. And basically right before she gets hit, truck blows up. Everything's a mess. And and honestly, you think the movie's over, and they do a good job of that because it has the music's playing a really light tone of the version of Terminator theme, so it sounds like it's like perfect wrap up to a movie song. Kyle Reese is the typical hero, limping out from the smoke, coming up to get Sarah, and it looks like it's all good, and they hug, and then you see in the background is like a slight movement, and then boom, metal sheet moves, and the Terminator endoskeleton just rises out of it like that.
Yeah, like low like that. Just sucks the air. Like the drum, like the heavy bass. Yep. Yeah.
And that was it. So that was, it was crazy. Because it's enough to make you, he's a Terminator. It can blast fire, but the explosions are big explosions. So you don't really think necessarily he's gonna come out.
But it's like seeing, and I always had this back to Jaws. It's like seeing the shark come out of the water for the first time.
Yeah.
Like the first time you actually, there's something under there.
Yeah.
You actually get to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that is a very valid favorite scene.
Yeah.
Would you like to guess my favorite scene?
This is gonna be tough because there's so many scenes in the movie, and like that was already an iconic scene. But I think you favorite scene. I'm gonna say your favorite scene is I think like towards the end of like the tech noir, and like when Reese says the iconic line, "Come with me if you want to live."
That is definitely a top 3 line, but my favorite scene also was the Terminator at the end out of the fire. Same one. That's what I guess. I was like, I'll throw you off. Yeah, that was my favorite because that was like as a kid, that part scared me. Like,
yeah,
I was always so as a kid, I'd watch it and I'd be fine as long as our first thing was still the main part of Terminator. But as soon as it was just the robot, that freaked me out, and that was the first time you see it. And in the fight ensuing after that, like this is like a minor part of it, but even when like Kyle Reese has the metal pole and he just swings at the Terminator's head multiple times, head turns right back, turns. It's just like that whole thing scared the hell out of me. And I think I said it all starts with that fire, and that was just like that was but otherwise, runner-ups are runners-up. Runners-up would definitely be Come With Me If You Want to Live. I mean the police scene is good. Like, I'll Be Back. I like that, but I still think there's better scenes. So I think that one is great. And I like trying to think the whole tech noir scene in general. I like when just the slow motion view.
Yeah.
So in the scene, he as soon as he spots Sarah Connor, Terminator takes this like laser guided pistol, and you see the laser beam go across the crowd and literally just land right at Sarah's face as she's looking up at it. And boom, Kyle Reese comes in with the shotgun and takes it out.
Yeah, you have to wait for which brings me. So I had 2 other scenes that I really like. One is so random, but One of my favorite scenes in this, going back to like because you brought up the gun, was when he's at the gun store. Yeah. And he's purchasing the guns. He's like 45 long slide with the laser sight, 12 gauge autoloader, Uzi 9mm. And then
like kid in the candy store.
Like the owner's like, "Let me buy clothes early today."
Yeah.
And then one of my and I never thought of this, and I was as I was researching, I think somebody came and I feel bad not giving the person credit, but I think it was either Facebook or Reddit, said he asked for a plasma rifle and a 30-watt range.
Yep.
And I was like,
only what you see, pal.
Only what you see, pal. And I'm like, why would he even ask for that? But somebody came up that like, and it could be a theory. He asked for it because that was the only gun capable of destroying a Terminator. And because he said no, he didn't have it, he realized Reese couldn't take him out.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, I like that. That could be like, yeah, so it's kind of like a self-preservation thing. And
yeah.
Okay, good. I know he doesn't have that.
So, I mean, that one, and then you're never going to guess this one, but me being a sneakerhead, which do you think
the Nike shot coming down on the thing? Yep.
I love it because it's so product. Yeah. It's because he's hiding. All of a sudden, where I love the little nuance, he takes
the strap. Yep. No, I knew you say, yeah. In the beginning of the movie, when he's looking for clothes, he ends up finding it in a sports store. And yeah, all you see is like the curtain of the changing room, and then the foot comes down in the shoe of the Nike.
Plans, and then he pulls the Velcro close.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I can see that, and it's funny in Terminator Genesis they recreated that scene. Yeah, exactly.
I've only seen that movie once.
Yeah, so they recreated that exact scene with the different actor being Kyle Reese. But yep. Courtney Jai, I mean, he played him, and he did that. Yeah, so that was iconic enough to literally redo that one thing. So yeah, I can go with that. Back to the gun store scene though, I like the end of it. Remember what he does is like he starts taking the shotgun shells. You can't see it. Wrong. Boom. And he shoots. That's like wow. And then he has the famous scene with the landlord where he has to landlord saying, "Hey, it smells like." Actually, this is a funny part.
Yeah.
There's a scene after he cuts out his eye and everything else. He's basically beaten up. He's looking at his next move. I think this is actually where he's looking up the address for Big Bear.
Yeah.
And the landlord knocks on the door and he goes, "Hey, he smells like you got something dead in there, rotting." Yeah. And that goes to show you that the living flesh does stink.
Yeah.
And he doesn't shower. So there is that. So that's what they're smelling. They're smelling the decaying face of the Terminator. And of course he has this famous thing, "F you a-hole." That's really how he responds to it. But what you learn from the punks in the beginning of the movie.
One thing I didn't know, I don't know if you knew this, because I don't know if you, we were so young, we probably never saw the teaser trailer. I don't know if you knew this. You know who did the voiceover in the teaser trailer? Or Optimus Prime. Peter Cullen, yeah.
God, I mean, it's kind of fitting. It's Optimus Prime talking about another rollout. Decepticons. Yeah. Autobots. Roll out. Yeah, that's cool. I don't think I've ever seen. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I do remember there was a voiceover one.
It was a teaser.
Yeah, my favorite teaser. We'll have to talk about when we talk about the movies. The Terminator 2 teaser. There's a scene that was never in any of the movies that they did. I'll say it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So Terminator 2, when they were still filming it, they wanted to get something out there. I don't think they had any polished pieces. What they did was it showed a thing, and then using the video games, which is actually really cool. But they showed an assembly line. Assembling Terminator endoskeletons, and it shows like a press coming over one of them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Then it's our Schwarzenegger body, and it's like his eyes light red, and it says like a new model, something like it was like same model, new something. But that was basically what that was their teaser, and that just looks so cool because you have to see like the Terminator being made. So we saw like the factory. So that was cool. That was Terminator 2. They did like the teaser.
I love it.
But. All right, so next we'll be doing the Brominator for Terminator 1. Stay tuned.
The Brometer.
All right, we're at the part of the podcast where we do the barometer rating. Once again, the barometer is our way of rating movies. It goes from 0, which means skip it. You don't need to watch it. You can just IMDb it or Wikipedia it. Don't waste your time. All the way up to 100, which means you should be watching this movie at least once in your life with your best bro before you go. So usually Andy asks me first, but today, because this is Andy's movie and this is his time to shine, you shine, superstar. What is your barometer rating for this movie?
This is a first. This is my highest rating ever.
Oh.
It's not what you think it may be.
Okay.
It's not 100.
I don't think you think that's what I think it is.
My rating for this movie is a 97.
97.
That is
Okay.
an A plus.
Yep.
That's at the lowest A plus you can have. So I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I think there are some better movies. I think it's good, but I think this is for me personally. I think culturally, I think this movie speaks volumes for what it basically what it influenced later on. I mean, movies like this influenced Matrix and things like that. I'm going with a 97.
I think you're a tougher grader on movies than I am, because once again, when I watch a movie, I watch it for what the value is. It's for entertainment, so I usually tend to revert to mine. I enjoy this movie. I think it's really great. Like I said, I think it sparked a genre. It's very quotable. There's so many different scenes. For me, like in the scheme of things, like the iconic Terminator, I'm putting this movie as I'm putting it as a 91.
Okay, I'm waiting for you to do higher than me. I'm like, get out.
No. I like I said, I love this movie, but this is not one like I'll watch it once in a while. But like you said, if it's on, watch it.
I've seen the movie.
I watch it, and sometimes I'm like, but I think it's a great movie. I absolutely think it's a great movie. So I think it's a must-see movie. But
no, that's fair. I think that's good. We can't always be the same. No. Yeah, I think 91 is still a good score. Nobody can knock that. So I think with that, we are wrapping up the episode. This is a longer one, folks. I apologize. Hopefully you enjoyed listening. I got a little excited about this one. It's not very often I get to school Matt in the movie. So you want to take us out?
Once again, to quote the line, "There's no fate but what you make."
Nice.
I like to end in on one of those, and with our new kind of catchphrase, love the movies that watch the movies that you love, and love the movies that you watch with a bro.
Love it.
Have a great day, everyone.
See ya.